Make no mistake, weightlifting is a dangerous sport, as Aduche Ohadi of Nigeria soon learned. No such concern for Alexander Karlovich, who is trying to do what his legendary coach did in 1972 and 1976, win back-to-back Olympic gold medals. But first his teammate, Leonid Taranenko, at age 36, perhaps wondering if he too will suffer the embarrassment of age, the way his coach Alexiev did at age 35 in Moscow, missing 3 straight lifts and bombing out of the competition. It was no lift. As he limped from the stage filled with self-doubt, Taranenko would face his mentor. Here was a man who came to Barcelona to win, a man with something to prove. A man at this point wondering if he was doomed to repeat history. To understand his journey, to understand his mission, let's go home with him to Minsk with Bob Costas.
At 36, his body is scarred, and the pain in his back may never go away. But while older athletes expect betrayal from their bodies, Leonid Taranenko's undoing came at the hands of his own country. 12 years ago, he stood in Moscow and won an Olympic gold medal as a heavyweight. Less than a year later, the same coaches who so vigorously celebrated his victory made him an outcast.
My sports life has been difficult, with more disillusionment than success. I always thought I was a free person and refused to submit to demands that lacked any normal human common sense.
What was he guilty of? By Western standards, it seems ludicrous. Leonid Taranenko was a free thinker who upset officials by voicing his opinions. His punishment was exclusion from teams competing outside the Soviet Union from 1980 to 84.
If an athlete voiced political ideas, he could displease officials who wouldn't let him out of the country.
Adversity and controversy would follow Taranenko throughout his career. In '84, he battled an infection that nearly took his life. After being told he'd never compete again, he resumed his training as a super heavyweight until he was stronger than he'd ever been before. Yet in 1988, he withdrew from the Games in Seoul. Skeptics claimed he failed a drug test, but according to Taranenko, it was a bout with pneumonia that stopped him.
I simply couldn't participate for the reason that I didn't get back the strength I had before my illness.
With the recent dismantling of the Soviet Union, Taranenko feels more free now to discuss his stormy past, but he remains skeptical about the future.
In this chaos of our republic, there's little hope. The governing structure has remained intact, the same people in the same jobs. It's still early to talk about democracy. If it succeeds, it will be in a distant future.
At home in Minsk, Belarus, with his wife Vika, Taranenko says he'd like to play a part in bringing that future closer. After Barcelona, he's considering a career as a teacher and coach.
If I were a teacher, I would develop in my students those qualities I wasn't able to develop in myself. They would be free individuals with free choice, free thinking. They wouldn't have to undergo the traumas I did.
No person or event can return to Taranenko his lost years. But when he stands on the Olympic stage in Barcelona, as he did in Moscow 12 years before, he might briefly find an answer to the question he asks himself every day, the question of what might have been.
There were no might-have-beens for Taranenko in Barcelona here tonight. There were only here and nows, and the question begging for an answer. Would his battered body be able to do it one more time? For the weary warrior, a moment of triumph. Taranenko would not repeat history. A medal was within his grasp. When we return, we will bring you the final round of competition.